Okay, so yesterday we have started the work in capital work in progress scenario, and what is the exact scenario here is we call it as asset under construction, also known as capital work in progress. Okay, so according to this scenario, when we are constructing any building or anything within the organization, and it may take few months or few years to complete. So until that point in time, we will create one AUC asset under construction asset, and we'll keep on posting all the transactions into that. And once the asset is ready, we will create the actual asset, and we will settle from the AUC to the actual asset, also known as main asset. This is what on the whole the scenario is. So what we have done yesterday, we have created one AUC. We have posted few transactions. Of course, we can see that all of them using AW01N. In AW01N, we can find those assets. I mean, I think we have created only one asset, factory building. Okay, so this is the one we have created. Okay, and we have posted this much of amount, $6,750. Okay, so this is what the total amount we have posted into this asset under construction. Now, so the asset is ready. We need to move the amount 6,750 to the actual asset. That's called settlement. In order to do the settlement, firstly, which asset are we considering for the settlement? First, we will have to consider that. Okay, so for that reason, we went into a transaction code called AIBU or AIAB or something. AIAB. So AIAB is nothing but a distribute. It means we are telling what is the receiver cost center and what is the receiver asset and what is the sender asset. That's what we will be telling here in AIAB. Now, once we get into this, we are giving the sender asset. This is what our asset, right? 7 lakhs is our AUC asset, the sender asset. And I'm executing here, and these are the amounts. So typically we should have only three items. Don't know, I mean, we are getting both of them, that we will see probably. Yeah, these two probably, to cover the two different accounting principles. That's fine, we will see them little later. Now what I'm doing, I'm selecting all of them, and I have to enter. These are all the sender amounts, sender asset. This is a sender asset, and this is the sender amount. And where are we settling these two? Where are we transferring these two? The receiver asset has to be entered over here. So when I go here in the enter, we see one important thing called settlement profile. The settlement profile is required to be done. Okay, the settlement profile is required to be done. So for that reason, we went into SPRO, and we have checked that part. So within the financial accounting, asset accounting, transactions, capitalization of asset under construction. Within this, you can see one thing called define and assign settlement profile. So execute the same thing we went into here, define settlement profile, and we have seen the standard settlement profile which SAP has given. That's called AI. When I go here in details, we discussed about all these things. So what are we doing? We want to settle the amount and allocation structure. Don't consider source structure. We don't require to consider at the moment source structure and PA transfer structure. Let's consider about allocation structure and default object type. What is this allocation structure? Basically, we will be using allocation structure in the case of product costing. Of course, we can use that if you want, we can use that in the internal order, but it is not required in the case of assets. So what basically allocation structure tells? It tells about what are the cost elements. It means what are the sender cost elements and where the amounts of all these sender cost elements should go. So basically the allocation structure tells us what are the source cost elements, what are the source uh, objects. That is what it tells. I mean, basically the cost elements. What are the cost elements to be considered in this settlement process? Okay, that is what allocation structure talks about. Then we will go into the allocation structure and we will discuss that part little detail. Now, default object type. So since the settlement profile is something relating to the fixed asset, we can select the default object type as fixed asset, FXA. We have different here receiver categories. You can select the one which is the relevant. So since we are doing the fixed asset, so select FXA. It's there. Now coming to the indicators, 100% validation. This is basically important when you are considering your the settlement in percentages. If you are selecting this percentage settlement, it means 10%, 30%, 40%. So depends on the number of receivers. Yesterday we were discussing about this part, right? So if you have multiple receivers, I have one AUC and I have different asset 1, asset 2 and asset 3. If I have 3 receiver assets for this AUC, I have posted some amounts and I'm settling this AUC. While settling, I'm considering 3 different assets. Now, whenever I have 3 different assets, I will have to enter either percentage. Okay, yesterday we discussed about it, percentage, or the amount, or proportion. Don't know what exactly the term for this is. So here equivalence number, equivalence nothing but proportion. Okay, we will consider proportion. Now what about the percentages? How much percentage do we need to provide to asset number 1? Let's say 30%, and asset 2 40%, and asset 3 50%. Now what happens when I take the total? It is 120, but typically the percentage should equal to 100, right? The percentage should equal to 100. It always it has to be always 100%, a maximum of to it a percent. It's basically the percentage is 100. The total should not cross 100. If I mention it as 120, what does it mean? It means 10,000 out of 10,000, 30%, 30%, not 30%. 30 by 120 will hit this, 40 by 120 will hit this, 50 by 120 will hit this. So what happens? It means even though if we are entering 10, if we have entered 10,000 and after apportioning to all these, it becomes 12,000. The sender amount is 10,000, receiver amount going to be 12,000, which is wrong. So if you want to select the percentages, then this 100% validation is important. Okay, then percentage settlement. This is what we discussed, 30%, 40%, whatever. So Equivalence number is nothing but proportion. So what exactly in this case is proportion, in the sense 4, I want to keep 4 here, 8 here, and I want to say 10 here. So it means out of 10,000, how does the system will calculate here? 10,000 into 4 divided by how much? 22. This is the portion it considers. Similarly, 10,000 into 8 divided by 22. And finally, 10,000 into 10 divided by 22. Now, when you take the total of this, it should not be more than 10,000. This is what portion. And what about the other one? It is amount. Basically, that is amount. It is amount. It means out of 10,000, 3,000 to first asset, 4,000 to second asset, balance 3,000 to third asset. That is what the amount. That is that that is what amount. Variances to costing based COPA is different. It is COPA related stuff. We will discuss that later. Now, valid receivers. What are the receivers? I mean, since the settlement profile is, this is what the settlement profile. We are telling the system we have some fixed assets to settle, some AUCs to settle to the actual assets. So what are the receiver objects going to be? What are the receiver objects going to be? Those are to be selected here. Since it is something relating to fixed asset, it is required. Either you can keep it as a required or you can keep it as an optional. But if you keep it as a settlement not allowed, you will not be able to do that part. Then we will discuss that part, of course. During our front end, we will discuss. And while settlement, what document type do you want to consider? Do you want to consider A or something else? What is the maximum number of distribution rules? So what are these distribution rules that we will discuss in the front end? Residence in time, how many months do you want to keep them active? Okay, once the settlement is done, that talks about this thing. So typically the settlement profile is this, and let's jump onto the allocation structure to discuss about. At the moment, in the fixed asset case, in the AUC settlement case, it is not required, but it will be required in the case of product costing, but still we will discuss that part. Okay, so I'm going into the allocation structure. As I mentioned, in the case of allocation structure, basically this talks about what is the source cost elements. What are the cost elements to consider for the settlement process? Okay, so actual postings here, settlement over here. We will discuss again in detail during our product costing case. So maintain allocation structure. Path is IMG, controlling internal orders, actual posting, settlement, and maintain allocation structure. Just execute. So here allocation structure, this is the one that we have considered in our settlement profile. A1, select the same thing, assignments. So here we are keeping different assignments. Why do we require to keep separate? So because basically what I want is personal cost. There are few GLs for personal. I want to keep them separately for this. There are some GLs on metal consumption. I want to keep them in a separate group. Other cost, remaining cost I will be considering into this. And secondary cost, we discussed about primary cost and secondary cost yesterday. And the revenues, if you want to track even the revenue, we will be considering. So these are the different assignments. You can create as many assignments you want. We can create as many as we want. Okay, now selecting this, Double click on source. Here we will be entering what are the cost elements that will talk about personal cost. If I just say as a personal cost, there is no meaning at all. But the moment I assign some set of GLs or one GL, then that GL is nothing but a personal cost from the allocation standpoint. Okay, select the personal cost, double click on source. Here you will be entering the cost elements or element range. You can consider the cost element group also. The moment I select a cost element group, under this cost element group, whatever how many are GLs there, all those GLs are considered as a cost element group for this personal cost. Okay, and this is what the source. It requires a base cost elements as I mentioned. This is what allocation structure. Now the pick up the amounts relevant to these cost elements and you settle it to here. That is the meaning of settlement here. So double click on settlement cost elements here, go into the new entries, and we will be selecting the receiver object. We will be selecting the receiver object, which is nothing but FXA, fixed assets. Where do you want to settle this to? So you will be selecting fixed asset. So this is what the category FXA is our category. And while moving the values, as I said, here we have AUC, right? Here we have AUC. And when you are moving the amounts of AUC to different assets, of course, this is not required in the case of asset under construction, but still I'm just telling what exactly the meaning of that. Let's say I have AUC. There are some cost elements posted to this AUC. Typically, we cannot post, but I'm just giving an example. So the cost elements which are involved in posting to this AUC, do you want to consider the same cost elements? I mean, do you want to consider the same cost elements as carrier from here to all these assets? Then you will be considering cost element. Or I don't want my cost elements to be considered as carriers from AUC to these assets. I want to have a separate secondary cost element. The secondary cost element does this way. So what it does is it it triggers it takes the amount from AUC, pushes into here. That is what basically, you know, uh, that is what basically that secondary cost element talks about. Okay, you can select either primary cost element or secondary cost element, but you're not supposed to select both of them. Okay, so it means the source cost element should be hitting this fixed asset and the carrier going to be either primary cost element or secondary cost element. That is the meaning of allocation structure. Now, so in the case of allocation structure, as I mentioned, right, different set of GLs, admin expenses, sales expenses, office expenses, personal expenses. Like you can keep as many groups as you want, other expenses. Then uh, we are settling all these things to the receiver object. So this process is nothing but allocation structure. These are the source cost elements and the receiver cost element going to be something fixed asset or something. That is what the allocation structures talks about. Any questions? We don't require allocation structure. Why? Because we are not considering any cost elements while posting the transactions into AUC. How did we post the transactions to AUC? We went into ABZON or F-90, posted the transactions. We did not use any cost elements in this case, right? So because of that, allocation structure is not required for us. So we have used ABZON and F-90. So because of that, it means we are not considering the cost elements. So because of that, we are not going to consider the allocation structure. Any questions?
No, Nanda.
Mm, mm.
So I have a question.
Yes,
My understanding.
your voice is not clear, ma'am.
Sorry. We are using like AUC,
Sorry?
and we have the project systems. So we
Uh-huh.
have the WBS mark capital. So the
Uh,
cost is collected on WBS,
uh-huh.
and we settle it.
Yes, we can settle that
And
too.
we settle it, but when the cost is collected, it's a different GL account. And when we settle it,
Sorry, your voice is low.
oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
So when we collect the cost, it's a different GL account.
Right.
And when
No,
we
yeah, I got your point. So basically, what are you doing? You have a scenario wherein in the project systems, you'll be creating WBS elements. You would start posting the transactions into the WBS element.
yes,
While posting the transactions, it is just like a cost center. While posting the transaction, instead of cost center, you will be considering the WBS element. It means the cost elements are the primary structure for postings into the WBS element. Now,
okay,
from WBS element, every month we will have to settle it to AUC.
correct.
At the time of settlement of that, you require the allocation structure because you are posting the transactions using the cost elements into WBS. There you require the allocation structure.
Hmm.
Similarly, in the case of internal order, we have a scenario. We'll be creating an internal order, posting the transactions into that, and at the end of each month, we will be settling that to AUC. Remember one point, when you're considering WBS element or internal order at the end of each month, it is mandatory to settle it to AUC.
Correct.
But from AUC to the main asset, only we settle it to main asset only once the asset is ready.
Okay.
Okay, in those cases, we will be using the allocation structure.
Okay, but if I remember correctly, I used that for 7, 8 years. Last 4 years, I'm not in that group now.
Oh, okay, okay.
But when I was running those settlements, I don't remember using allocation structure. It was all automatic. I would just created settlement rule where it goes, but I did not see
Correct.
any
Right,
structure.
right. In the settlement profile, that will take care of the moment we assign that settlement profile. It comes automatically. We will discuss
Okay.
that part. We will
Okay.
discuss that part. So typically, we don't require allocation structure for our asset settlements, right? So now we will be creating one settlement profile without allocation structure. And even if you assign the allocation structure, it is immaterial for us. So let me create a settlement profile. So because of that, if you see over here, you don't find in fixed assets, you don't find the allocation structure, right? You can see only the settlement profile, but you cannot see any allocation structure,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go and create a settlement profile. Will do. So path is the same one, just execute, define settlement profile, and the profile has to be assigned to our company code. So double click on define settlement profile, go to new entries to create our own. Okay, what I'll do, I will say 12 AUS, asset under construction AUC. Okay, asset under construction. I want to be settled in full. I don't want allocation structure. Source structure, peer transfer structure is not required. I will select the default object type as fixed asset. I will select fixed asset. I'm saying 100% validation, percentage settlement, equivalence number, amount settlement. You can see all of them, all these three in the further in the further steps. Now I'm just saying here fixed asset as an optional. Okay, and you will see the importance of this part. I'm just selecting cost center and fixed asset, only those two. And what document type do you want to consider? Normally we will, since it is an asset related, so we will consider asset. Maximum distribution rules, let me say 5. So what exactly that part we will discuss. Residence in time 1 year I'm keeping just to save. Okay, so we have settlement profile. What do we do with the settlement profile? We will assign the settlement profile to our company code. Assign settlement profile to company code. Our company code is this, and select the settlement profile 12 AUS. Just save. Okay, that's it. Now come back to the asset. Okay, so again, I'm coming back to AIAB. We have seen this already. Enter into that, take the company code, take the sender asset, just press enter and execute. Okay, we have got this thing. Now select all the items and say enter. Select this button, push button. Now you can see directly. Earlier, we were not finding this because the settlement profile was not assigned to our company code. If I remove that settlement profile, again, we will have that original thing, the earlier one.
Yeah, this is what I used to see.
Correct. So you don't require to consider what is allocation structure, what is settlement profile. You don't require, it comes up automatically. Now, when I select the receiver category, I can able to see only two, cost center and asset. Why? Because in my configuration, I did select only those two. In the settlement profile, I can see, select the same thing, going into details, see, I have selected only both of them. Now I'm keeping cost center as not allowed, saving. Okay. And here maximum number of distribution rules 5. Now the same thing you can find it over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see only 5 distribution rules. It means at a maximum, you can consider 5 receiver objects here, 5 receiver assets here. You cannot consider more than 5 assets. Suppose I have an AUC and I want to settle that to 6 fixed assets. So I cannot do here because I have only 5 here. Okay. And this is a percentage, equivalence number, and amount. These are the things that we got based on this selection, based on these 3 selections. Okay, so I have selected cost center as not allowed. When I go back and just check here, I'm going back and again enter. Now you see the difference. Enter, you can see only fixed asset. Yeah, I've saved it. Let me go back. AIAB. Okay, just execute. Okay, select all of them, say enter, and category fixed asset. You can see only one. So it does not mean to have five all the time. You can keep one, you can keep two, three, four, five, but at the maximum five. So I'm saying I've selected here at the time of entering into this transaction, I have entered the sender AUC asset, sender asset. Now, what is my receiver asset? That is what I will have to tell. So I'm selecting the sender asset and I'm selecting my sender amounts. You can pick up few or you can pick up everything. Okay, I'm selecting all and when I say enter, it means sender cost enter and this is the amount system is considering and where this needs to be settled. This needs to be settled to the asset number, whatever you enter here. Now, based on the category, if I select fixed asset here, I can, the moment I select here F4, I can view only the fixed assets here. If I say cost center here, the moment I click F4 here, I can see only the list of cost centers. Based on the category, the list of items will come up. So what I will do, I will create, I have this thing. How come two are there? Okay, that's fine. Factory building. So this is the one we have. Just select that. This is the asset I want to consider as a receiver and I will say here 100%. Okay, so you can see the difference over here later. Now at the moment all these are blank. Okay, you will understand this little later. Okay, just enter. We don't have an option to save here. Come back here, then save it. Come back here and save it. And if you want to remove this receiver, you just have to say detach. The moment you say detach, now if you go back to the enter, you will not find anything. Again, you will have to enter the entire information. Okay, come back here and just save. Saved. Okay, so just enter here and you can see now you can see this amount. Double click here on this, you can see this is what the receiver asset and the percentage is 10, sorry 100. Okay, back back. Now you can do settlement from here or you can select the other one. We have a separate transaction code for that, and if you settle there it will take you to the same screen. Okay, AIBU for settlement. Path for this is easy access, accounting, financial accounting, fixed asset posting, capitalized asset under construction, AIBU settle. Enter into this. Okay, so this is the source. I mean the sender asset and what is the date, on what date we are settling this. So let us take the dates. I will say settlement and I'm not going to consider any document type. It comes automatically. So the moment I press enter, it will come up automatically. On what basis it comes? It comes based on the document type what we have entered over here. Okay, now detailed list test run. I'm executing this in test run mode, selecting, I'm just executing. So it is taking a while. Okay, you can see now 6,750, 6,750. This is for this ledger and 0L this ledger. Okay, so now you can see the receiver asset. This is the receiver asset. This is the sender asset. And the transaction type is 346. Of course, we don't require to remember the transaction type because it comes automatically. So we don't have to worry about this. Nobody will ask about what transaction type comes up in the case of, in this case, nobody will ask. Okay. So now come back. If everything is fine, come back here, remove test run. And if you want to see the balance, I'm opening another screen. Okay, AW01N. If I select 7 series, I still see the amount. And if I select 4 series, 4 lakhs, I don't find this amount at all. Okay, but after the settlement, you can find a difference. So remove test run, just execute. One more important thing that we missed. Define number range for settlement documents. So for all these settlements, we require a settlement document. So we have that here in this configuration only. Go, go back, and here you can see maintain number ranges for documents for line item settlements. Path is same, just execute. Maintain number range for controlling document, change number range for settlement document, check assignment of controlling area to company code. We have different things here. So double click on maintain number range for controlling documents. Our controlling area is 1248. And if you see the intervals, this is the number range maintained. Okay. So by default, it will be there. Come back, change the number range for settlement documents, double click on this intervals. Here you got one, all zeros, that's fine. Save it, back. Check assignment of controlling area to company code, double click. Of course, we have already maintained this. Our controlling area is 1248. Select the same thing, double click on assignment company codes to see. Yes, perfect. Okay, save it, back. Okay, now let me go back and run settlement AIBU. It is taking you to the same place. Even if you do it from here, it will take you to the same place. AIAB. Okay, and for 7 lakhs to consider. Okay, and just execute. You have all these items, and I'm saying settlement, it will take you to the same area. Okay, removing the test run, press enter. Now execute. It will be what happened to this define number range for settlement documents. No number range for settlement documents for in controlling area. The settlement document is a document type in its own right, which is used for canceling settlement and repeating month end process. Define number range for settle, maintain number range for settlement documents. It is taking us to the same, but okay, I think probably we might have not assigned the relevant one. Okay, so what is our, this is us. Okay, our controlling area, let's see. 1248 is not assigned in this. So how do we do that? Just double click on this, or else it's not allowing us to settle. Okay, so what I will do, okay, double go to details and select the overview list. You can come back to the same thing. Okay, let me just pick that up from there. I don't remember. I forgot it totally. Let's see 1248. So we will have to have, we need to have that here in this. How are we going to get that? Normally we should have one item. We should have one. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Yeah. Now this is the place, right? So here I'm selecting this one, change groups. Go to the change groups. 1248 here we have. Just double click on that. Select the group first. Okay. Yeah. Select 1248. Select here. Assign element to group. Select this and select 01. Double click on that. Now you cannot find 1248. 01 you can find under 01. This is us. So this controlling area has now a number range 1248. So what you have to do is, when you are here, maintain number range for settlement documents. Here select this one, change groups. This is to show overview. We cannot add anything or subtract anything here. Because of that only you cannot see any icons here. Now what you have to do is go into the change groups and double click on, select the relevant controlling area or company. This is basically a company code. Select the company code and select this assign element to group and double click on the relevant number range. It will go and sit into that relevant group. Okay, if you see here 01, you can see 1249. Just save it. That's it. Now we have a number range to this. Let's go back and let us run this transaction again. So either you can use AIAB for settlement or you can directly use AIBU. Either the way it is fine. So select the value date and I'm saying settlement, removing the test run, select a detail list, execute. Now a document number is posted. If you go into if you go into the relevant assets AW01N for 4 lakhs, you can find the amount. This is the depreciation amount for 2019 because 2019 it posted here in the month of September or something. I think we have settled it in the month of September. Okay, I will just see what is the settlement here. September. So September in the sense 31st December, 31st September it will come. So October, November, December, totally 3 months should appear. So probably we might have completed the depreciation until 10. So we can see from 11, but still it has to show the amount. So it has to show for October, November and December, but still we can see only the 2 months that I will check. When you go here in the comparisons, you can see year-wise the depreciation amounts back. If you go into AUC asset AW01N and if you select 7 lakhs, you can see now zero. Everything went off. So it became zero. So this is what basically uh, what is that, the settlement AUC settlement process. So this is the direct approach. In the other cases, we have two more scenarios using internal order and using WBS element. In the case of WBS element, what happens is at the end of each month, it means in the case of WBS or the internal order, what happens is in both the cases the transactions, I mean, we'll start posting the transactions into that relevant to the AUC, and at the end of each month we will have to settle these to AUC. And once the asset is ready, from AUC to main asset, this settlement has to happen only once the asset is ready. But whereas the settlement either from WBS or internal order to AUC has to happen every month. So instead of considering this part straight away, we are posting the transactions into AUC. From there, we are settling these two main assets. The main disadvantage why we require the WBS and internal order, we really don't know what kind of expenses we have posted. Directly we are selecting AUC asset, posting the transactions directly into it. So we don't have any base. I mean, whether we spend, how much did we spend, or how much did we spend on iron, how much did we spend on labor, how much did we spend on cement, we will not have a clear details of that. We will not at all get any details of that using AUC and settlement to main asset. That information is possible if you use either WBS or internal order, because typically we will be selecting the cost elements while posting the transactions into this. So cost elements will give you the complete information. Any questions?
No, Nanda.
Okay, so that's about the AUC process. Okay, so let's continue tomorrow. Okay, so we have some period end activities, I mean year end activities that are to be considered, and I still have to figure out, I still have to complete the intercompany related stuff in order to complete the intercompany asset transfers here. Then I will have to see special depreciation concept. Any questions in this?
Not on this, but I just wonder, about the Fiori apps. We still need to, yeah, we have not done that, right? Because there is some issue going on with the systems.
That is about the bank accounting thing,
Yes,
right?
correct. Right,
Yeah,
right.
I will see that thing. I've followed up with him. He gave me some response, but it did not work. Then after that, I left that place. I left that as it is. I did not follow up after that. I will show you that. That's absolutely fine. So if that does not happen over here, I'll show you that in my client system.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. So
Thank you.
tomorrow we'll continue. I think tomorrow
Oh,
Thursday, right? So
yes.
tomorrow won't be possible.
Okay. So Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.